Hey everybody, welcome to my chess stream here on leechess.org and Twitch. I'm International Master William Paschall. We're going to start playing some Blitz and Classical today, Wednesday the 15th of June 2016. We're streaming on Twitch as Slaggy, that's my account, and on Leechess, my name is Sparkle Horse. Got to turn off the commercial here on my other laptop. Welcome, guys. So, I've got a challenge from Future Tao 007, who's kind of a new regular player here. Not sure. He's got a 1500 provisional rating. Thanks for not challenging me to rated games. So, what's up, guys? Not too much in overall chess world. International Master Danny Kopek passed away. He was somewhat involved in computer chess over the years. He was also a co-commentator of mine on ICC for a very brief period. Sorry to hear that. And so a fellow former New England resident in the United States. I saw a new article on ChessBase about the Zalakaros tournament, but no new information there. The Capablanca Memorial taking place at the moment in Havana, Cuba. I think it's in Havana, Cuba. Ivanchuk back to his usual tricks, leading the tournament with +3. He always likes to play down there. One of those top players who's always risked playing in like second category tournaments. Alright guys, let's get started with the game against Future Tal. Nobody in the chat room yet on Twitch, but I'm sure that we'll get somebody in there soon. Future Tal, good luck, man. I don't know, I think you kidnapped the Gladys troll and took over his ability to play the first game. Alright, what am I going to play today? E4. Let's try something different, guys. A little E4, E5. Watching the commercial on Twitch right now. Ridiculous stuff. Going to confuse Future Tal here. Everybody expects me to play the Sicilian, but really ought to be able to play other stuff as well. So we're going to play E5. It was always my dream to be able to play Sicilian or double king pawn, but all my life I never really played E4, E5 until I experimented with a little bit the last 10 years or so. Future Tal paralyzed with fear. Where is everybody in the Twitch stream here? Usually Calidus is here. The bishop's opening. That's a good choice, one I don't know that well. I'm having a strange memory coming back. I think I'll play the bishop's opening once with white in tournament game against FIDE Master Alan Bennett. I don't know why I did that, but I just recalled losing to Alan Bennett with white in the bishop's opening. I've been willing to experiment with openings sometimes in important tournament games. I don't know why. When I was younger, I liked to play random openings on occasion. So D3, and then as far as I know, the main line is C6 here. Nobody in chat today. What's going on? They're all stunned by the Iceland-Portugal draw yesterday in the Euro football. D3, C6. There are other ways for black to play. I mean, I'm sure bishop C5 is probably good. Knight F3, D5. Future Tal says, hi man, it's just you and me. I don't know what's going on. I think there's a strike against me or something. Where is everybody? It's some kind of secret holiday. As far as I know, this is the main position. I guess you could play some Queen C7 or some weird move like that. here. The problem is bishop d6, bishop g5. Is that not really a problem, I guess? Right. I'm getting a little bit nervous. By now I always have somebody saying hi. Here's someone else. Monthu, I'm here. Monthu, thanks for letting me know that we're not alone. Knight c3. I guess we could think of this as kind of like the Colley system with colors reversed or something. I don't know. Bishop on b3, very, very dangerous piece. And knight c3, I'm getting the feeling that sometimes black might have played like knight d7 or something like that instead. Because now I'm kind of put to the question here. Probably have to take on e4. Not a fan of the structure with d4. Very modest position after pawn takes e4. Casey Braden, welcome. Thanks for reassuring me, guys, that we're not alone here in the Twitch chat. I was a little concerned. Our usual peoples are not with us. Okay, so d takes e4. Wait, this powerful bishop on b3. My chosen setup, I think, isn't the most aggressive one. It's possible that bishop d6 isn't the best move. I'm not really sure. But black should still be pretty solid here. Is bishop g5 a threat? You know, I mean, it's consistent, kind of consistent active development. I could even play bishop e6 in some situations and possibly still be okay. It's just castle. Guys, it was raining earlier. I was a little bit concerned we'd have the noise of the rain beating down on the roof during the stream, but it's cleared up for the chess stream, so hopefully. Never thought it would come down to like needing good weather for doing a chess stream, but it helps. You're always with me. Just don't rate me too highly on the scale, Feature Tal. Alright. So Capablanca Memorial in Cuba, guys. Check this out. There's an awesome game by Ivanchuk where he beat very badly the Hungarian Almashi István. István was like totally on István. That's his brother, sorry, Zoltán. Zoltán was just totally unrecognizable in this game. It's really scary, but he didn't seem to really be up for playing Ivanchuk that day. All right, I'm going for the bishop on b3 maybe in some lines with knight a6 here. Trying to play knight c5. Saronche, welcome. Good morning, Saronche. We don't have Calidus. We don't have the Gladys troll, the saddest troll. So usually the guys who say hi, good morning first are all absent today. In Future Tal, we're playing e4, e5, Saronche. We don't know too much about Future Tal. Future Tal, where are you from, sir? 1500, it's, okay, 2200 in Blitz, so... For some strange reason, he has a really big discrepancy in his ratings. A bullet of 1269 and Blitz of 2200. You're either a very slow old man, you just don't like bullet chess too much. It's still early for us chess players. Well, Shevaninga in particular likes to come late. Believe me, when I was in my 20s, I would always, you know, stay up partying all night and wake up around 12 every day. But those days are past. Gotta take advantage of the time we have left. Future Tal says he's from Budapest. Really? In the opening, where Future Tal played bishop b3, oh yeah, no, bishop b3 is forced. I mean, after this bishop d6, I think there are a lot of moves I can play here. Queen e2 seems to me another variation for sure. Alright, so knight a6, bishop e3. He's trying to stop me from playing knight c5 somehow. Does this work? Knight c5. Bishop takes c5, bishop takes c5, queen takes d8, rook takes d8, knight takes e5. Minimally wins a pawn. So, how do we overprotect e5? I mean, queen e7 looks like an awfully natural move here. Since he... since he's played bishop e3, a lot of ambulance has gone by here. I don't know. Since he's played bishop e3, we have no real fear of bishop g5 wasting a tempo. So I'm comfortable putting my queen on e7. And now we have a choice. Knight c5. Bishop c5 doesn't seem as good because he could then change his mind and play something like bishop to g5. Play me if you're 2200 bullet, I'm going to beat you. Casey Bredin said he tunes in from work. It's 3 a.m. there. I get it when someone has 200 or so difference between their blitz and standard ratings. Future Tal. He says he's from Budapest. It's possible. Should quiz him on his Hungarian. I'm not really in position to to judge anybody else's Hungarian. Oh, Hungary beat Austria 2-0 in football. You guys know about that, right? It's pretty unbelievable. What do you recommend if you have to win as black against e3? Well, honestly, hasn't come up too often in my practice. e3. Well, I mean, e3 could be like French defense with colors reversed. You have to play for a win against e3. Well, I would think that it really depends on your opening repertoire. If you like something like the King's Indian, I mean, you just play that, but b5. This is going to weaken my queen side significantly if I play b5. We could play something like knight to g4, just going for his dark squared bishop. Then he has knight c4. Knight takes e3. I could also just take off his bishop on b3. I'm running out of time. It's always a good thing. So anyway, against e3, that's a funny question. Starting to rain again. Man. Bishop c7. It's a sun shower maybe. I'm not playing outside, although you guys might think I am by the way I'm reacting, but the sunroof. I'm a little surprised. I thought the future Tal should play knight takes d6 there. Or bishop retreat, I mean. That's what I'm trying to say. Just g6. Gotta watch out for foreboding tactics like knight d5 or something. But it's a closed position. Okay, I mean, maybe his knights aren't too bad. I'm trying to answer your question about e3. I mean, if you play stuff like the King's Indian, I would just do my normal stuff. But I would think that a dynamic move like c5 or e5 would be better than like d5. Because after e3, d5, d4, you get a pretty quiet kind of Coley system. D5 would be the move I'd be least likely to play if I wanted to win against E3. You have to be careful of things like, exchange French, I guess, but that's not a problem. E3, E5, D4. You don't want to take on D4 in that situation and give white an exchange French type of position. And rook A, D1. Still don't believe he can sacrifice a piece or anything like that. We just take the bishop pair here? Or do we try for more? I don't see any need to weaken my position. It's a blitz game, 2 minutes each. Great match against Hungary. Great match by Hungary, the oldest player in the European tournament. Kirai Gabor. I guess it's not so difficult being a goalkeeper. It's kind of like a baseball player being a designated hitter or something. It's not easy being a goalkeeper, but at least you don't have to run up and down the pitch all the time. You can do it when you're 40. But let's see if Hungary can keep it up. They've invested a lot of money in football, whereas it didn't used to be the case at all. The government has supported. One of the only positive things they've done is really support football in Hungary. B5's interesting here. I mean, he doesn't really have any counterplay against that without A4 and shelter to play bishop B6, sheltering my bishop from stuff like knight A4. I don't know, I've got to close the window. But Future Tal, I mean, it's kind of weird. Yeah, man, what's up with the bullet rating? 1200. I don't understand that, man. That looks very suspicious. People are going to suspect you of some kind of computer use. You got to raise that bullet rating up. I didn't mean to start a big uproar. I don't know, but Future Tal doesn't play like he's an engine or something. I just thought it was odd that he has such a differential in his ratings. Okay, my bullet rating probably wouldn't be that high, I have to admit. Now we have trading rooks. I don't know if I should have traded rooks, honestly. I could take on E3 there, but it would leave the dark squares really weak. This ending is actually very close with the two knights. Looks like he might be able to hang on. Cagey, my favorite word, cagey defense. He might be able to hang on. I don't know though. It's really tough to defend this kind of position. I'm going to use my pawns on both flanks. Knight F1. King D6. It's the best square for my king. Can look both ways, basically. B4 now. Probably the best response to that would be just keeping the tension, I guess. Maybe A4. Not sure if that closes the position too much. Maybe I should just take on B4, I don't know. Taking's probably fine. has some ideas here. Bishop C4. Is this considered an open or closed position? This is definitely not an open position. Definitely not. I don't really know what to do here. Be king d4. I take this guy. I like h4, king d4. Wow, I think no time to talk. Future Tal, I don't know what your deal is, man, but you're pretty good. Probably a draw if you had a little bit more time there. Free trade agreement. Free trade agreement, 2247. He has a draw and 2 losses. Now he's got a good rating. 2247, pretty solid. The Sound of Rain is so romantic. That's what we aim for here, romantic. Alright. I could say about the last game is that I was never lost. Probably it's a draw, obviously. Not easy for me to win. Free trade agreement. I'm trying to play more King's Indian. Balance it out. I was playing only Bogo Indian, Nimzo Indian. And want to try to play both e6 and d6 setups against d4. Free trade agreement. I played a few games of this setup with white myself. We'll go with the traditional approach. So there are different options for me here. Hebden played... Well, that's... Okay, that's not what everybody does. I do d5 a lot myself. More common is probably like bishop e2. The way that former world champion Smyslov used to play. Hebden played queen b6 against me, which is... It's an interesting move. Not really, you know, the standard move. But let's try it. It sort of creates original problems for white. That is rain, you guys, here. It's been pretty widespread the last week or so. Queen b3. Well, not a dangerous move for black, but certainly solid enough for white. Now the next move might be important. Let's see, we do h6 and just like get that bishop. I would think so. We grab the bishop pair here. It's going to be a very powerful dark squared bishop for me, long term. Oops, knight's trapped. Yeah, that last ending. So normally when I'm playing white, I'm not playing queen b3. I prefer probably queen c1 for white. Maybe even rook b1. I can't remember that game I had with Hebden 15 years ago. It was a little less than that, maybe 12 years ago, but who's counting? I think I lost eventually with white. In the solid setup. I can wait on knight takes g3. I don't need to play it right away. Knight a6. Looks like the more active way to develop my knight. He could avoid the exchange of queens with something like queen c2, but it's a loss of tempo, and he'd also have to deal with the threat of knight to b4 at some point. Guys, check out my YouTube channel. Today and tomorrow we're putting up a new video from Zalakaros. Interesting game I played there. Why used Kramnik against me? Said Future Tal. I used Kramnik against you? I just... What do you mean I used Kramnik? Well, you played the bishop's opening, and there's not that many options for black, I guess, against the bishop's opening. Now what, like knight c7 for me? It kind of blocks my queen a little bit. I was thinking e6. Yeah, e6 probably here. Looks active. Benoni. I don't really like the Benoni, but I mean certain variations. We've talked about this before. If you play the King's Indian, someone asked this question like 2 weeks ago. If you play the King's Indian, you can't get around having to play some form of Benonis. How long have I been playing chess? Since I was about 11, I started. 11 or 12, I can't remember exactly. I knew how to move the pieces in elementary school, but the object of the game was not explained to me till junior high. Around 7th grade. 7th grade. That was clear. Which is pretty late by modern standards. But still not that late. So I guess I was 12. I don't remember. I guess I was 12. It's been so long now. Alright, rook d1. I like want to play knight c7, but something about it was bothering me. Not sure what, though. Probably nothing wrong with knight to c7. Now knight e4. So he's highlighting the weakness of d6 there. Well, that's pretty bizarre. So I take here. Maybe one of the first times I've ever played this for black, queen b6, but thought I'd try something new. Magnus was playing chess blindfold when he wasn't born. Yeah, it's amazing. I mean, I don't really know Magnus, but been around him, analyzed with him, played with him once. He seems relatively normal for a chess genius, for a child prodigy chess genius, which is pretty rare. My concern would be that if you start too early, the only thing you focus on is chess. Probably not that good for your overall mental health. And I was talking about this with a friend yesterday. A lot of very strange people who just think about chess and nothing else. And not the best thing for you. That knight's got to go. I think it's important to be balanced. It seems like Magnus is a little more balanced than the average chess prodigy. So free trade agreement here. He's giving me the b2 pawn, perhaps. But I'm in danger of losing d6. How important is d6? I also have a check on a5, dude. It's probably going to be answered by king, I guess king f1. We have a concrete problem with the d6 pawn, but my overall feeling is that black is active here, and he should be fine. I could trade queens and take on b2. We could also just try to defend the pawn on d6 to some degree. But if I play rook d8, for example, he trades queens. Yeah, that's interesting. He trades queens. I take open the A file. And then it's probably not a bad idea. This also gives my king the flight square f8, which actually crops up a lot because in this variation white has, you know, lines where they sacrifice on g5 and stuff like that. So if you've got a dark squared bishop and a square to run to on f8, black can never get checkmated along the h file or something like that. I think I had a little bit of a questionable tactical decision here. I don't want to give anything away. There's one line I'm not real confident about here for black. It's kind of abstract. Although I guess in any case, black should be okay. Black should be at least equal. I can always... Actually, I'm saying I can always take on b2. But if I take on b2, I'll drop my h6 pawn in some line. This is a little tricky. Contorted Silver says, as far as I can judge from his rage videos on YouTube, Magnus has huge mental problems. I haven't watched. Honestly, I haven't seen that. That's not a good sign. Contorted Silver. That's not a good sign. That's not good. This guy should be one of the happiest people in the world. But you need to drive yourself. I don't know if any of you guys know baseball, but there's the most successful Japanese baseball player of all time, Ichiro how do you pronounce it? Hikaru Suzuki. He's nearing like this record where he would have the most hits ever by a professional baseball player, but it would be disputed because like half of them were in Japan and half of them were in the United States. Anyway, I was reading a story about his life and about how he got involved in baseball, and he was just like very, very under super high pressure as a kid by his father. Just massive expectations, and he was basically almost like hazed by his father pushing him so hard, and that's why he became so successful. But it has effects on you long term. Should I take this pawn on b2? You put too much pressure on yourself and it's not good. Bishop d6, rook takes d6. One of the things that was interesting about Suzuki was that his father told his coaches that no matter how well he did, never ever were they allowed to say like, positive things to him, to tell him like, you good job or something. Like he was never to be like rewarded for his performance no matter what. I thought that's like kind of perverse. I can't really hold this pawn here. This is bishop takes b2. I'm going to sack a pawn. Bishop e6. One thinks of Laszlo Pulgar. Yeah, it's the baseball version of Laszlo Pulgar. I don't think that Laszlo Pulgar was abusive as much as some Rustam Kamsky. But the Carlsen shouldn't have like rage. I mean, come on. That's ridiculous. Okay, bishop f5 I was thinking here. Bishop f5. This... Oh, man, I don't know, guys. Knight f6 check. King f8. Free trade agreement. And he's going full materialistic on me. Fully materialist. I missed this move completely. This is kind of too much material to be down. I could take on b2 there, but I don't think the pawn's going anywhere. I'm down 2 pawns. One of them is a kind of harmless doubled pawn, and the other one is backward. So I'm thinking maybe this can hold out, you know? maybe I could have grabbed on b2 and then rook takes h6, bishop g6 or something. What I didn't want was his rook, you know, grabbing on a6, getting active on the 6th rank. f4. f4. Well, start. Should we start grabbing? Maybe just take on f4. I'll double his pawns. Doesn't seem right. Bishop there. How about this move? Well, he's got that worked out. How about this move? We don't really know who Trade Agreement is. Another mystery account. Too many mystery accounts, people. Future Tal, Free Trade Agreement. Who are you guys? We have some compensation. It's practically difficult for white here. I don't know. But I don't think I can play for a win. I have a draw at best. Looks like all I can do is draw. Feel lucky for that. 2 bishops managed to hold the balance. Rook takes d6 and bishop takes b2 instead of bishop f5 looked like an easy win. Well, I mean, wasn't something hanging for me? There was a reason why I didn't do that. Rook takes d6. Well, my b7's hanging. I guess it looks like an easy win. I have several things hanging. You're talking about rook takes b6, knight takes d6, bishop takes b2. Yeah. Well, I wouldn't call it an easy win, but you're right. I mean, I should just trade rooks. Play bishop takes b2, rook takes h6, and then like rook takes a3. And yeah, I'm clearly better. Yeah, it was the only way to go. I have to give him h6, but I'm doing good. So you're right. Misevaluation by me. Completely there. Yeah, a little bit paranoid. Okay. Very bad mistake. Thanks for pointing that out, Gary Hertz. Yeah, I don't know why I thought that rook takes h6 would be anything for white there. He's not well coordinated. So that was a huge mistake. All right, f4 c5. Here we go again. We've had several of these with Jeroen. G5 is hanging though in that line. No, because his knight's on d6, free trade agreement. I mean, that's the point. I trade rooks and draw your knight away from g5. Then I play bishop takes b2, and now you play rook takes h6, and your knight's on d6, and I just play like rook takes a3. So it's terrible for white. Maybe materials momentarily equal or something like that, but my king is probably safer than white's king. Okay, so something new from Jeroen here. It's like a neo-Dutch, where I haven't played d5, but he's gonna treat it like, well, it's really like a sort of Rossalimo Sicilian, just that he's played e3 instead of e4. It's kind of bizarre, but certainly okay, playable for white. But I mean, there's a big value in not playing d5 for me, because white's idea in the Dutch is to really control the e5 square, and as long as I have the ability to play d6, he can't get a lock on that square. So now what? Maybe just queen c7 or queen b6. Queen b6, knight c3. I don't really like that. Queen c7 is fine. Actually, queen c6, knight c3. I have bishop takes c3, but I didn't see it before I moved. However, he would have bishop takes c6 there. Yeah, I'm probably winning. Bishop takes c3. Anyway, it's not a big deal. White could play queen b6, a4, something like that. Will be interesting to play back the stream again. Rook takes d6, bishop takes b2 instead of bishop f5. Yeah, that's what we were talking about. All right, so Jeroen takes here on c6. Now, I'm not going to accept double pawns if I don't have to. So I don't like that move, Jeroen. I mean, you shouldn't... I don't think you should voluntarily trade on c6. I mean, your position is okay, but... This queen and bishop could become... It's like a BOGO Indian. Colors reversed. Could become powerful in the long diagonal. Is d5 a threat? Well... Not really the structure he's looking for here. So I could play b6 and let him play d5. But maybe I'll get overrun in the center. Like d5, e4. So let's focus on normal developing move. Less challenges today. Yeah, I don't know what's up, guys. We didn't have a lot of greetings at the beginning of the stream, and there's not very many challenges, so it's a slow chess day. Maybe the European soccer tournament has something to do with it. I don't know. Knight f6, queen c7. Guys, I'm going to be moving to the US in 2 weeks for 2 months, so the stream will be shifting to USA time, USA-based stream time. How else to say that? We haven't committed to an exact time yet. I'll see what works best. Queen c7, and now Jeroen has this one setup he likes to play, kind of stonewall. But again, knight on e5, it's going to get kicked out, so this isn't really great for white. It's kind of like if you're white against the Dutch and you play the English and you don't commit to playing d4. You know, you can play a setup based on d3 and e4. The Dutch, the whole idea is to control really one key square. And now this looks like could be a tactical blunder. CD, CD, queen c3. And he's hanging a rook and a pawn on d4. I don't think he's going to be able to trap my queen on a1. And the important thing, this is with check. So if it wasn't with check, maybe something like bishop a3 would give him some counterplay, but no such luck here. Free trade agreement. So how many hours back or forward is that approximately from the current stream times? Well, I'd be doing it in the evening. Evening my time, so yeah, probably like 7 hours. 7 hours back, I would think. Queen takes d4 check. It's, yeah. Is that right? No, it's 6 hours. It's 5 a.m. Maybe more like, let me see. Eastern time, it's almost 5 a.m. like 8 hours back from the current time. It's going to be late for the European players. You guys can suffer for 2 months while the Western viewers have to suffer for 10 months. Let's see, knight d3, bishop f5. I want everyone to suffer equally. Now he has bishop b2, taking back this long diagonal. 24 hours max. You think so, man? It could be like 48. I might not stream every single day. I'll probably be streaming 3 or 4 days a week. Guys, check out my YouTube videos on video chess training. That's my YouTube channel. If you want to contact me about training or lessons, give me an email, videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Before we really got started, I was just scanning the international chess events that are going on. And why don't I just like take this guy here on d3. Keep it simple. It's a really strong bishop on f5 though. Would ruin his pawn structure a bit. Queen d5 is also good. There's tempting like ideas to play for the long diagonal, but grabbing 2 rooks for the queen. Alright, I need to defend my b7 pawn anyway. We could take on d3 though. I think that's fine. I think Future Tal is in love with me. Future Tal, you are female, right? You're pretty strong. Pretty strong for a girl. Just kidding. I've lost to a lot of women chess players. If I was a woman, I probably wouldn't even be in the top 300 in the world, would I? I don't know. Would be interesting. Future Tal is sending me hearts. Alright. We should take this guy off now and decimate Jeroen's pawn structure. Keeping it simple. And then the long diagonal. He has a good square for this knight. That's starting to bother me though. What do I do about that? So there's nothing I can do about it. Just live with it. Live with it. If I trade pieces, I'm still, even if I trade an e4 and correct his pawn structure, I'm still just a clear pawn up. So we're getting a little time. I can't be too picky here. If I get an ending, just a clear pawn up, that's probably good enough to win in most cases. e6 kind of weakens my pawn structure. Rook c6. I like my queen at d5. Could even take toward the center. If you were a woman, you wouldn't play chess. Well, I don't think it matters what sex you are. Knight e4. Yeah, this is the move I've been waiting for. It's pretty tough. As I said, I don't have a lot of time. Man. It's a very strong piece. Okay, so we just aim to keep it simple. Now he's doing that. I could play knight g3 check. Wow. Let him sit there with that isolated pawn on d3. He should definitely take back on d3 first. I mean on e4. This is a serious positional mistake by white, because taking back on e4 fixed his pawn structure and gave him a powerful pawn and sort of saved the tempo, hitting my queen. I would have played queen a5, by the way. Running out of time now? All right. I don't want to trade queens that badly that I'll play queen h5 though. I thought there you should play rook e4, maybe avoid exchanges. Oh no, you might have had f5 actually. Did you play f5? No, I guess not. No, that would just lose a pawn. Alright, never mind. Maybe e5 there for me. Getting really low on the clock. So queen endings are always tricky, but I have such a good structure that this should really be very difficult for white, if impossible, if not impossible to save. My king has shelter, I have the better structure. It's centralized. Very important in any kind of queen ending. Queen centralization is just massive, massively important. As well as king centralization. Just centralization counts for everything. So we got a pawn up, better structure. Queen endings bring the king in the game. There's the constant threat of trading queens when you're up a pawn and a queen ending, when you centralize. So that's the main idea. You just constantly threaten queen trades. And now somebody's looking for some counterplay, it looks like. Oh, I thought you were headed for a3, but you could play a4, giving a passed pawn, not a good idea. I don't want to help white create a passed pawn. I want to keep him tied down. And I want to centralize my queen, my king. Centralize everything. Alright, queen takes check now. He's starting some perps, it looks like. But I always have a square. Doesn't even have a check here. So he's gone. No checks. This is not good. Alright, we got some challenges now, guys. Neverness, Trust in My Suicide, Ghost Mine, Lonely Wolf. People are starting to wake up. Future Tal said when he was 11, you were beating at 2100. Corsica said, my wife would be livid if I resigned when I was ahead. I don't know what you guys are talking about. Neverness. Oh, you mean like when you're playing your wife? Yeah, I mean, I think any competitive person would be hurt if you patronize them or something. So, I never take it easy on anybody. With the kids, just beat them mercilessly. Just enjoy winning too much. Against Neverness, e6. A little bit of a break from the King's Indian. I had a bad experience in Zalakaros. I lost in a Nimzo Indian against Gergely Sabo. I lost against Erdos in a Bogo Indian. So I like b6 here. I did play knight e4 against Neverness earlier, but my real move is probably b6. a serious move. Knight e4 is experimental, but it's probably not Teoshen. Sazalik, 100% airtight. Bishop g5. And now we enter what is a pretty well-known line. I think I had a game in the New England Open a couple years ago. One of the few sort of weekend tournaments I've played in the last years. Who was that against now? A young, strong player. Bishop g5, h6 is fine. Just because we play h6 doesn't mean we have to play g5. Although, usually I do so. g5, knight e4 is a main line, of course. I was looking at this because there was a small chance somebody was going to play this line against me in Zalakaros. Maybe Erdos or something, I don't know. Queen b3 though. I think knight d2 is the modern move, and queen b3 is really obscure. You could play bishop takes f3. Not really a good idea. Now a5, bishop e7 is a very solid move for black. I'm just going to play that. I mean, queen on b3, it looks kind of exposed. There are lots of moves I could play there. a5, c5. I thought we'll just keep it simple. It must have worked for Kramnik, Neuberger. h6 first is slightly more accurate. Yeah. But queen b3 is a weird move. I've never seen that in this position. I guess I should play a5 or c5, but it's a quick game, and honestly, the queen looks kind of misplaced on b3. So we can just revert to a very solid type of setup. I took on f6. I understand the point here, but I'm a big fan of the bishop pair, so I'm completely comfortable with like letting you do that. You've got a hippopotamus type of formation. Should I play d6? Yeah. d6 looks good. Hippo with the two bishops for free. There's certain situations in like the Trompowsky where white can give up the bishop on f6, get a really big spatial advantage to justify it, but I think in this type of setup, to me it just looks like white is weak on the dark squares, and I mean d4 in particular. I mean, if you look with the computer engine, it'll probably say white's equal because of just the central pawns, but I don't think it could be better. I don't think white can be better here. Rook d1 is a good move. Now I have to be a little bit careful after rook d1. But it's probably no big deal. I can just castle. If he plays e5, he sort of jettisons his pawn structure permanently. So I don't think he's going to do that. And I didn't want to play queen e7 too quickly because he has the move knight b5 in some positions when I'm not castled yet, which could be very awkward. So once I'm castled, I'm more comfortable playing like queen e7. Neuberger said, I just remembered h6 first because if you're playing bishop e7, you lost your option to go bishop a6 in some rare lines or something. Yeah, the last time I played this was against Mika Brattain. I remember now. It was like 2 years ago at a New England Open, and he played the main line, which is like h6, bishop h4, bishop b7, knight d2. I think that's what happened. Though it's still kind of vague. Now d5 looks really bad for white. I have knight c5 here, and we just destroy white's position. Bishop takes knight. This is like dream queen's Indian. So I play everything, the queen's Indian, the Nimzo, and the Bogo. And when you play them all, it gives you the ability to recognize patterns, borrow from one to the other. Black has a really good game here. Super knight. The bishop is buried right now, but it's theoretically superior to white's bishop. And now we have options. I don't really want to see a knight go to d4, but if it did, I'm not sure what serious damage it could do. So maybe I'm better off just like keeping the tension here with rook e8, or maybe queen f6, or some move that brings more pressure to bear on white's position. Nimzovich is smiling wherever he is. And yeah, maybe I regret this now. Am I going to regret this decision? I have a good game, but you know, this would have been better to like get this rook over to e8, honestly. I could have played it in with e5 too. Queen f6. Develop this piece. Try to keep an eye on the dark squares in the position where white is weak. And maybe I can complete my development with rook e7, rook e8, doubling like a Benoni type situation. Just thought of something interesting here. Have some interesting options. Also in these type of positions, I mean, you might want to redeploy the bishop to c8. This is standard, kind of standard Queen's Indian maneuver. Do I prefer 5-0 or increment? Well, if I'm playing for fun, I guess I've played so many like non-increment games. It's my preference, but for purposes of the stream, I'm requesting everybody challenge me between 5 and 8 minutes with an increment. Now here, take bishop c8, some kind of move, bishop d7, or just bishop d7 right away. Bishop d7 right away looks sort of stupid. Yeah, take. This is one way to play. He has to take back. I think he has to take back with the c pawn. I mean the e pawn, because his e pawn is just hanging. And then we unbury our bishop. And then he's ending up with the bad structure. I have a great knight on c5. But maybe he'll hold on, because it's not by any stretch of the imagination lost for white at this point. Maybe in the hands of Karpov you'd be lost. You'd have to play perfectly. We have very good prospects of getting like a good knight versus bad bishop type of thing. But I think I probably made some suboptimal moves. Probably could have had more. But it's a relatively fast time control. Good afternoon, sir, Lou Barlow. was the last time you played over the board in the U.S.? 2 years ago. 2 years ago, I played the New England Open, the tournament where I played that game that I'm talking about, I suppose. Or maybe, yeah, that was it. 2 years ago, I played Mika Brattain in a New England Open. I didn't win that tournament. I had too many draws. I had like 2 wins and 4 draws. Bishop takes b5. This was in Massachusetts in 2014, I guess. This I don't like. Now I have really good chances. Though he does undouble his pawns. And perhaps we'll have enough to hold on. I wouldn't want to be white here in a long game. I have knight a4. No. Knight e4. Knight e4. Oh. We have to calculate this. This is maybe like a trap, you know. He's got bishop f3. We have to calculate this seriously. He's got bishop d3, bishop f3. And if I take on c3, he might get some kind of counterplay. Probably not enough, though. Maybe this will work. We're going to try it. Could get a little out of control, couldn't it? Knight e4, bishop d3, knight takes c3. All right, let's see. You're gonna have to. I could always chicken out if I want to. Let's make sure. I can always go back to c5 if this doesn't work out, but we'll see. Let's think. Bishop d3, knight takes c3. Hitting his rook. My king has f8. I'm hitting all his pawns. Something like rook c1. Rook takes e1 check. Rook takes e1. What I'm worried about is then like knight takes d5. He's got all sorts of tactics based on my rook on a8. So it's probably the wrong idea, trying to win material here. Maybe I'm better off just playing a developing move like rook e5 and doubling up on the file, rather than trying to cash in some kind of immediate material gain. I could just go back to c5. Now bishop f3 I don't think is as clear because this b5 pawn is hanging. Well, maybe it is. Queen takes c3 doesn't work. Knight takes c3. I thought I could take on b5 in that line, but then again he has always this. He has a lot of tricks with c6 square. So it was a mistake. We're going to admit that we made a mistake and just go back. I'm not going to be a sucker and take this pawn. Black is slightly better, and I think I can improve my position gradually. So that was a fail. 94. I kind of knew it, but I had to just make a decision. So I wanted to make him think about it and think on his time. But I don't like it. Knight takes c3, rook c1. I'm backward on the c file there, and my knight would like to get back, but knight b5 is no good because of queen c6. So I'm not sure how I get back, get my knight like cycling back into the game. It doesn't have a good outpost anymore. This is an interesting move. Queen d2 played here, stopping me from my intended g6. But h5 isn't possible either. Okay. It's a good move, queen d2. How about this? How about this? a5. If you take, you worsen your structure. If you don't take, this pawn could be dangerous, and it also eliminates any problems that I might have with my a7 pawn being backward. Alright, queen g5, I could trade queens in a nice ending. He doesn't have to trade queens, of course. Rook e5 is always possible. Alright, I just have to make a move. I have there's very little danger here for me. Let's play knight a4. This is kind of a probing move. Probing bluff. But it will force him to weaken his position more and weaken the dark squares more. I'll just go back. Now, if I could get this pawn down to a3, he could do some damage, possibly. All right, now we're talking about endings. Now, rook e5, I guess. Can't give up the file. I can't really afford that. Queen and knight combination. The best in the business. Well, how about this? We compromise, all right? I'll exchange, but on my terms. Let's exchange on my terms. Well, he wants to exchange on his terms. Well, it doesn't really matter to me, man. You're not going anywhere. What about this? Oh. My queen was hanging. You didn't see it. Oh my god. It's so embarrassing. I almost jumped out of the chair. That's terrible. Now he has queen c3. Something like that. Shouldn't be a problem. Just left our queen hanging on f6. Not good. Now the a-pawn wins. Oh man, that's embarrassing. G6, good move to include if you're going to play rook takes e3. I should have just played king g7. I was saying, oh, my king's closer to the center. I don't want to play king g7. It's closer to the center. Uh-oh. One check, not enough. All right. I'm lucky. Now, I wouldn't resign yet. You have one more chance. One more chance. Yeah, he's playing for mate. Not today. You had your chance. You had your chance already. Two queens are better than one. Oh man, terrible oversight. Thanks for the game. Lonely Wolf Elgar Bawi 100. Elgar Bawi, I'd love to play you, but I'm not going to play rated with a provisional player. So Elgar, if you could challenge me to an unrated or casual game, I would accept your challenge. Queen g5 d8. Yeah, there's mate in one. That's why I said he shouldn't resign. There's always a chance. 2400. Oh, I'm back to 2400. Did you hear me, Elgar? Elgar, try to change your challenge to casual. Because I just have a policy now of not playing provisionally rated players' rated games. And yeah, he'll re-challenge me. And I'll honor your place in the line. You would be up next, I guess. Sheppy is challenging me. Why, Sheppy, why are you provisional? Sheppy always challenged me to blitz, I guess, before. It doesn't matter. His challenge is unrated. So hopefully we'll get re-challenged by the guy who challenged me to a rated game. Lonely Wolf. Yesterday we had a Queen's Gambit with Lonely Wolf. I really liked my opening, but now A6. Alright. We'll play a kind of gambit, if you like. Sheppy says he only plays casual, yeah. Well, I know. It's been a long time, Sheppy. What's up, man? I always enjoyed playing the games with Sheppy. E4 is the idea. So we've got Slav-like gambit. But it's not a Slav. He's played A6 instead of that. It might be an improvement. Might be an improvement. Alright, Queen C2, sort of overprotecting E4, which becomes a target in these lines. Lonely Wolf 1908, but Lonely Wolf barely not provisional. But I don't care, it's not rated. Sheppy doesn't have the patience to take long online rated games. What does it mean anyway, this rated? So it played C6, Lonely Wolf. I don't know. I think you should try to do without C6 because it seems like it's an improved, kind of improved Slav. It's actually, I guess we've transposed to a pure variation of the Queen's Gambit accepted with A6. This is definitely some kind of theory. And this gambit is considered risky for white, I'm sure. But I'm so used to playing these types of positions that I don't really need to know. It wouldn't hurt, but I don't necessarily need to know the quote-unquote theory because I know the ideas in all types of Geller gambit structures. I have a good concept of what I'm doing. Then Bishop E4. This is, speaking of the Geller gambit, kind of like usual Geller gambit idea. But in general, I don't think you should want to do that because that piece is a really good defender of the dark squares. For those of you guys who are like beginners or relative beginners, you hear me talk a lot about squares. And the advanced players understand, but I know that it may be hard in the beginning when you're just used to like losing pieces and pawns and keeping track of your pieces and not hanging stuff, to talk about squares. But I think the game is really more about squares than it is about material or pieces. Controlling certain points. This piece is valuable for controlling all the squares on the dark squares. Black has so many pawns on white squares. Almost his entire structure is on white squares. That means that the dark squares are weak because the white square pawns can't protect dark squares. So it's like a kind of holistic, can I say that, holistic problem in Black's position. Alright, now 97, maybe he'll go to G6. He had that idea in the last game in the Queen's Gambit. He likes to put his knight on G6. And then, of course, we have the idea of B3, breaking up the queen side. I could also play A4, standard type of idea. I don't know, B3 looks pretty powerful here. I'm down a pawn, but we could take either way, queen or pawn. Queen is interesting. But the pawn opens up my rook along the A file. 128 says, thank you for the explanation. I always felt like there was not enough for the pawn if black could get this. I'm pretty bad in these structures. Can you explain a bit how to play them? Well, again, what I said about the white pawns, I mean, I think, you know, we're looking for exploiting the weak squares in black's position. There would be definite justification if I could play bishop a3, you know, to trade his dark squared bishop off. I think that would be an interesting idea, but it's not possible. He just takes and plays b4 and wins a piece. Trading his dark squared bishop would be a big idea. Maybe I have knight a2, you know, in some situations here. But I mean, this is kind of standard plan for me. e5, and well, we can combine different ideas. I mean, attacking down the c file, attacking his king, because we have more space. It's like a French defense type of position where we have more space. There's the famous Bobby Fischer quote, you have to give squares to get squares, and I think this is a perfect example of that. We're willing to cede this huge outpost square for black because we get some huge squares ourselves. Now knight e4. We have attacking chances on the king side, very real attacking chances on the king side, and also I'm positionally threatening like bishop a3 to trade off his good bishop when I might get like a knight on d6, for example. Permanent knight like that on the 6th rank. You look at it like this, I mean, I'm down a pawn, but that pawn isn't going to really matter a whole lot until the endgame. And if black doesn't make it to the endgame, then being a pawn down is irrelevant. So it's a positionally based pawn sacrifice. Not necessarily like based on just attacking directly on the king side. We have more space on the king side. Sometimes you can get a direct attack on the king side maybe. Knight d7 is a good defensive move, it looks like. Guarding c5. Maybe he'll go knight f8 at some point. I was threatening bishop takes h6, by the way. And this move, knight d7, guards his guards the dark squares. Also allows knight f8 at some point. So we're gonna go with our kind of stock plan. Now I don't know which way to take. The f3 knight needs to stay there to guard d4. So maybe rook takes, maybe queen takes. I mean, we should have really, really powerful compensation along these files, on the dark squares. Threat of knight d6 is kind of huge. So it's an unpleasant situation for black. Maybe he can defend, but he has to be very creative. Neuberger, yeah, this is a bad piece. And normally black tries to play like bishop b7 and somehow get in c5. But obviously that's hard to do. But the likelihood when you have all your pawns on white squares, the likelihood of that being a bad piece is very high. So it's a concrete problem in all Queen's Gambit lines. In a way, I like my queen on c2, but you know, it really only had the main purpose of attacking c7 or c6. And d2 is all right. It overprotects d4. It also has dark squares. You know, we might hold up like a5 or something like that. Right now we have a huge threat of knight d6, and he's trying to figure out like the best way to deal with that. But it looks really bad for black here. It's maybe lost strategically. Knight f5. If knight f5, I have g4 always. Yeah, knight d6 here, and maybe bishop d3 followed by bishop e4. Try to create some, or maybe rook c1, concretely attacking the c pawn is a good idea. Maybe bishop d3 first to stop knight f5. I hack it off with the bishop if he tries anything. And now rook c1. We have ideas of attacking him on the king side too. Bishop b1 and queen d3, which can be vicious, maybe forcing him to like weaken his king side. So it's really playing this kind of setup with white. It's a matter of like juggling like different ideas. I mean, you have to kind of alternate between a multitude of different threats, whether it's the c pawn or invading on d6, mating him on the king side on h7. It's a matter of keeping black busy with different kind of alternating threats. You saw the game on ChessBase, Bill Paschall versus Stephen Muhammad. You played that guy over the board. Oh, I was going to ask what his deal is, man. He's been missing. Yeah, he's totally disappeared from chess. He was strange. Wow. But are you sure he's still alive? Like, yeah, I massacred him in a King's Indian. He had no idea what he was doing. So, Epithetos. That game was really, really brutal. Stephen Muhammad. I wonder what happened to him. It's funny because there's this account on ICC that's been around for years. But it's registered to Germany, so I don't think it's him. But it plays just like him. It plays the London system with white and the King's Indian with black. I always thought that was strange, you know. Elgar Bawi challenged me, okay, to casual. We're going to play Elgar. I always thought it was strange, like, why would someone who played the King's Indian play the London system with white? His repertoire was very strange. He was a good player, though. I mean, that game where he lost against me that you talked about, Lou Barlow, that was a kind of anomaly. I mean, he usually played well, and that was one of the worst games he ever lost, probably. It's a closed Sicilian. Maybe a chameleon variation. Knight on g to e2 and d4. You never know. I say closed Sicilian. You never know. They can still play for... Although black can play e5. I never really went for that. I don't really like e5 type of stuff. So, who is he talking about? I was talking about Stephen Muhammad. He was an international master who, like 15 years ago, was a fairly decent player. And then he just like dropped off the radar. He's an American, a black American IM. But he was he became a Muslim, and well, his original name was Stephen Booth. He lived in California, and he was a strong player for years and years. But then, I don't know where he lived. Maybe he moved to Atlanta or somewhere like that. But he became a Muslim, changed his name to Stephen Muhammad, and then he kept playing. He qualified for some U.S. championship. But around the time I moved to Hungary in 2004, I played him in a tournament in 2002, I think 2003, but he just dropped off the map, and I thought it was kind of weird. Maybe I thought he like died or something. I didn't know. I mean, I heard nothing. So he doesn't play chess at all in like the last 10 years as far as I know. But I played a guy online a lot on ICC who reminded me exactly Muhammad. Muhammad was a good blitz player, and he had a very narrow opening repertoire where he always played the same exact stuff. He only played the London system for white, and he always played the King's Indian for black. And I was always like wondering if this person I'm playing online, that guy, it's a weird opening repertoire. People who play the King's Indian usually kind of hate the London system. So it's ironic to see someone playing the King's Indian and the London system at the same time. Queen d2, Elgar. We've been here before, guys. And I can play d5 to equalize. You knew him as Booth and played him as Booth in the Central Valley with Igor Ivanov. Yeah. I didn't know him back then when he lived in California. Well, I guess he moved from California at some point, but I didn't know him. I didn't know him when he was Booth. I knew when he, just the later, the Muhammad stage. But it's funny that it was mentioned here because I was wondering about him. You know, I occasionally would like check online and see if he still existed somewhere. So we could play d5 and equalize here. Castling kingside, not very scary for me. So I think in general I've played with some success a simple bishop d7 now. That we've had some games where white castle queenside where this isn't so good. In fact, the other day we had a game just like this, and it seems like the bishop, if he's going to castle queenside, it's better to exchange knights and put the bishop on a more active square on e6. And I got in trouble by playing bishop d7. But if he's going to castle kingside, there's no real danger. So we just play a kind of unusual variation of the, or rare variation of the classical dragon. Newberger said you have knight g4 with equality. I don't like knight g4, Newberger. I know that you can play that, but in my opinion, they can take on g4 with the bishop. Just give it up. And you're left to these positions with this bishop that's... The bishop pair there doesn't really do anything for me. In this particular kind of structure, it's hard to use the white squared bishop. I don't really go for knight g4. I agree. You can also play bishop g4, I think. Some people play that, but no, maybe not. Just after f4. Yeah, you can play knight g4. It probably is equal, but I don't really like that piece distribution. I'm not a big fan of this bishop. No, giving up the knight on g4, bishop takes. White trades his bad bishop. You take with the bishop, he plays f3, and yeah, it's okay for black, but it's sometimes hard to use in this structure, the bishop pair. But I agree, it's probably equal. Rook d1, and then I just take and play bishop c6 now, which is also equal. We'll see what happens. It's really hard to play for a win with black at all. I mean, when white plays such a unambitious setup. And I'm wondering if bishop c6 is even the best move here. Well, queen a5 would walk into knight d5, so I don't want to do that. Have this knight d5, knight takes e7 check trick. But sometimes black can allow that. This is, yeah, one of the most boring variations white can play against the dragon, more or less. He's not even moved his f-pawn. I'd like him to play f4. Because I think that gives black a lot of counterplay. So you played with Booth too. He wasn't a bad player, man. He was strong in what he knew. But I caught him in that variation where he had no clue what he was doing. He also beat me in a game. Now I can't recall, of course. Selective memory. I somehow lost to him in a tournament in New York. I wasn't really in a good state psychologically. That was right after the peak of my career. I started to have some problems, and I was drinking a lot. I was really depressed. It was 2003. 2003, I think. But I had a terrible tournament at the Marshall Chess Club where I don't think I won a single game. Bishop f3 is really boring too. Not a great piece. It's like he's trying to hold a draw, I guess. Rook e8. Again, if I play queen a5, he has knight d5, so we played this move. No Palinka. No, in those days there was no Palinka. I didn't really pick up Palinka until later. I'm not a big Palinka drinker. It's pretty rough, man. It's okay to have a little bit, but I wouldn't recommend drinking large quantities, especially if it's like homemade. Don't know what's in that stuff. Knight d5. No, in those days I was drinking a lot of wine and way too much. Knight to d5. e5. If I play e5, he plays knight takes f6. You could play e6 with equality. Elgar Bowie. So this player is provisional. It's got 2100 classical. So far, it played very solidly. I guess bishop takes d5. Any move is possible here. Bishop takes d5. Trying for dark square blockade. We could also play e6, guys. Just let him take on f6 twice. But we have a slightly worse ending with the backward pawn on d6. So I'm going to play the most solid approach. Trade everything and go for knight versus bishop, where his bishop is a bad piece. But it's not easy to do anything for black here. This is like a draw in most instances. White has more space, but his bishop is bad, so it's hard for him to make progress. Black can only win if white plays badly. It is possible, and people manage to do it all the time, but with a computer, for example, white would never lose. I don't want to h4 now. Well, I guess I should think about h6 or h5. Maybe h5. h6, h5, g5. Although I could get a good knight on e5. Let's stick to the dark squares strategy. I like the taste of beer. Well, Elgar Bowie's remind me a little bit of Dr. Muhammad, I have to say, dude. There was an account that was banned for being a computer, but Dr. Muhammad played pretty much the same style. Computer would never lose this with white, not in a million years. Human might, though. We have a choice to make now, guys. E5 with the knight or F6. I think F6, because if I play knight E5, he moves his bishop and is starting to do stuff like F4. I'd love to put my knight on E5. Maybe I can get away with it somehow. Maybe knight E5, bishop moves. Although ultimately, if he gets in like G3 and F4, I'm really in trouble there. So F6 is a little bit more stable. This is a better square for the knight, but maybe not as stable. The full Dr. Muhammad style. See, computer, I'm not saying this is a computer, but I'm talking about computers. Computer doesn't recognize this is a bad bishop. It knows it will never lose this ending. A human can lose it, but the computer will play it perfectly and never lose. So it's not afraid to go into this kind of position. Or a human might be afraid to play this kind of position with white because they'll say, oh yeah, there was a time I lost to Bill in that Marazzi where, you know, he ground me down with good knight versus bad bishop. But computers have no fear of this kind of position where a human might say, oh well, I'm going to be in trouble in this ending. And I had a lot of instances where I played against computers. I mentioned this during the Dr. Muhammad game, or games, because there was more than one. A lot of endings against computers in positions like this I've had over time. There's G4 here, and we could trade the G4 pawn for the H5 pawn. I'm starting to like black, though. Maybe rook A4 with real active play. Have to watch this guy, though. It's kind of double-edged. His bishop could go to E2 and shoot out to B5. I'm getting really low on time. Rook A5 is also an interesting move. Alright, I'm going to play the safe move, King F8. Try to transfer my rook maybe to C8 where it can defend laterally rather than from E8 where it's very passive. This is something that Mihai Suba talks about when he's playing English. A lot of times in the English you get the same structure in like reverse Sicilians. It's much better to have the rook here on C7. It can be active and defend and attack at the same time. Rook on E8 is very bad. It's also liable to get attacked by bishop B5. So that's what we're doing. Playing rook C8, we're getting it to C7. We're also hitting C2. He's tied down to a number of pawns here. D5, H5, C2. I think with rook E3 he wanted to play like a cross to hit my B6 pawn. We also sometimes have knight D7, but we have to watch for bishop G4. So C3 at least cuts out the rook stuff. It cuts out the nasty rook moves. This is probably a slight inaccuracy. I should have played rook A4 first. Now I have time. He missed rook D4 there, which was a very strong move. I think that would have... And now he could be lost. Yeah, it's maybe not lost, but it's dangerous for white. Rook D4. Rook takes D4, and again he's got cross counterplay here with rook B3. So I'm not sure. Yeah. Alright. Not sure what's going on here. Take on D4, he takes on B6, I take on D5. Takes on B7. I'll just defend with knight d7. Rook b4. I don't know, guys. What's going on here? We just have to try to hold the position, I guess. Maybe we could play e6 and d5, or just e6. e6 and e5. That's probably a mistake. Just like my games against computers. Maybe I could get at the b5 pawn. I don't know. Whenever I attack b5, he just... Yeah. There's no way to win. It's a classic computer game. I mean, I'm not sure he's a computer, but that's how it would end up if you played a computer. You would never win. Epithetos. Welcome. So I'm actually happy not to lose there, because it looked like there might have been some instances where he could have been better if he played more accurately. Epithetos. This guy's blitz rating is 1779. You mean the last guy? A lot of strange ratings on Lichess. It's hard to do anything about it. Can't really be sure. Epithetos. Okay, King's Indian. I'm playing knight a6. I've gained points on 25-18. I think it's my highest rating. a3. I don't see anything wrong with a3, actually. I don't think that's a really known theoretical move. But I can't really criticize it. I think that it makes some sense. And why you might play b4. It's obviously not dangerous for black, but... So if I play e5 now... Well, I guess we have a normal situation. I mean, there are some lines where the a3 could be a waste of time. If this variation is one of them. It could be a useful move. It could also be a waste of time. Let's see. So it's like a Petrosian variation where he played a3, and I could play knight c5. If he plays knight d2, I play bishop h6, and very tricky to know whether to play knight c5 or not in a Petrosian, because sometimes it's best not to do that. Although a3 might be, it might turn out to be a decent move. Epithetos. So there, I think that b3 is mandatory. Hope I don't lose a pawn like I did the other day in a similar situation. a4. You really shouldn't allow this. I'm not sure I even need to play h6, but you want to think about it. It's better not to play h6 here. Just not weaken my king side. h6, bishop e3. Could play c6. He's threatening knight d2, actually. The problem is he's playing very fast. Bishop e3. Knight h5 will lose a pawn. So b6 also loses a pawn. I guess, therefore, I have to play this, which is normally bad, but because he's got this weakened queen side, it's probably not so bad for me. f5. f5. Epithetos, like, dude, it's pretty fast. Pawn takes. Guess I have to play here. Now f3. Play e4. Knight back to f6. Dude, you're pretty fast there. We played him twice, we won twice. Man, he's playing so fast. I'm a little bit worried about this position. Queen h4 check. It's probably a good move to throw in. Drives his bishop back to an inferior square. And then we put the queen on e7, like in the same-ish. This bishop is much less dangerous for me on f2. Castle kingside. Kind of happy to see castle kingside. Knight b6. Not really the usual square. But I need to hold that pawn on a4. So unusual situation calls for unusual measures. White is played very strong and very fast. This move I can't approve of. Yeah, I should just take with a knight. Maybe it's not bad though. Sharp position. I don't know. Maybe white's still better. He's 4 minutes ahead of me on the clock, dude. Trust in my suicide, your challenge dropped. Sorry about that. If you're back in the list, we'll get to you first. Then Sheppy and Ghostmind. Newberger. Newberger's 2400. Newberger, I guess we didn't play before. Queen c2 there. It was your golden opportunity to play c5. Right? Man, he didn't do it. I was terrified of c5. c5 was very strong. Rook a2. Epithetos, though, the speed at which you're playing, man, you should be like 2300 in bullet. Knight b5. Also a good move. Alright, first things first. Let's get the king off the g file. Off the diagonal. That doesn't matter so much anymore now. And another good move. a4. guess I could play knight b7 if I wanted to, just to hold up his queen side. We should eventually have some threats on the king side. It's kind of disturbing how fast Epithetos is playing for a guy rated 1800. Way above his rating level. I don't know about the other games I played against him. I don't remember how the games were at all. Don't recall. Usually play casual, so yeah. He usually plays casual. This is casual. Most of your games are casual, so you're much stronger than your rating. Is that the implication? You played like a strong expert in this game so far. Maybe we have some attacking chances though. F4 at some point. Looks kind of strong. Bishop takes c5. And then I don't know how to do this. Give him a passed pawn? Or not? Oh, I'm going to lose on time. Nice. Okay. Alright, we'll give him the pass pawn. He's crushing me on time. 1800 player. Yeah, I'm not really used to playing the 5-3. I should have adjusted, but he was playing too well for me to move too quickly. One mistake, I would have been in a lot of trouble. He already missed that c5. I thought that was a very good chance for white, but should be winning for me, but I got very little time left. Yeah. Threatening rook takes h3 and rook takes c3. But I don't know how, in my wildest imagination, you could be only like 1900 in bullet. You would have to be at least 2100. I'm simply winning a piece now. If it's not mate, winning the queen. So he just collapsed. But mate. We have a mate. We have a mate. Epithetos, man, you scared the living daylights out of me there. I thought I was done. All right, trust in my suicide, Sheppy Ghost Mine, and Newberger. I don't know about that game. We need to play more King's Indians. I don't feel that comfortable. And I can't find the moves that quickly. White also could have castled queenside. It scared me. You know, he played very safe. He played very, very safe with the castle kingside. Although that was fine. Probably fine too. How do you challenge on Lichess? Well, there's several ways to do it. Rook g3 seemed winning. With a4, played the bishop to be on d7, not a knight. Yeah, I wanted to put the bishop on d7, of course. But he wouldn't let me because he played knight b5. And then I was kind of discombobulated. And the whole game I wasn't really comfortable because I don't like playing knight fd7, to be honest, ever, when I'm black in the King's Indian. I don't like having to transfer my king's knight to the queen side in the King's Indian for black. That's how like Nakamura got crushed in that game against Kramnik. Some of you guys might remember 2 years ago. It was the same thing. He ends up transferring his king's knight to like d7 or something, and then his king gets mated. You need the king's knight usually on the king's side. It's very rare that you can play you need to play knight fd7, but I know that it can be done in some lines, but I'm not really comfortable with that maneuver. I felt kind of discombobulated there. Trusted my suicide with this really quiet setup. I guess I'll just play normal moves. You could also play for black some kind of funky knight a6, knight c5, Emery Tate style. Now knight takes d4, d5 would be one approach, but it trades pieces. You can't go wrong with casual. Epithetos, can I get another game as black? To wait till tomorrow, man. We've only got 25 minutes left, and I'm trying to get in like 3 games, basically. So Trust My Suicide takes on c6. In the normal Sicilian, this is always bad. But in this structure, it's not so bad, probably because of this, and he doesn't have a pawn on e4, so he develops the bishop over here, and I don't really like it for white because I have this pawn break, a5, a4. Strategically speaking, this is a structure that should be slightly better for black. But it's not so easy, you know, to do anything. So, similar to the accelerated dragon, you can look at the pawn structure as a whole and say, I've got the dragon, it's one island, it's low maintenance, and it's very hard for white to attack my pawns. Whereas white has 2 islands they're pretty solid, but you know, I've got the a4, a5, a4 break, which creates some problems. Normally, when I played white in this kind of structure, I'm always nervous about this happening, a5, a4. And it's a minority attack. It's not the standard kind of minority attack, but that's what it is. A form of minority attack to break up the white queenside pawns. Any guitar players in here? Rest in peace, Emery Tate. Yeah, Tate loved to play knight a6 in his accelerated dragon type positions, and maybe he's right there. You know, that's actually Suba does that in English sometimes. There are interesting possibilities there. It's not standard, but it may even be good. It may be better than the standard move knight c6 to do knight a6 and knight c5. And Tate played well in those type of positions when he wasn't going totally crazy. So this is a situation similar to what I was talking about before with who was it that suggested knight g4 in the last dragon? You know what? I mean, is this bishop really a piece that's better than my knight? You know, I'm not so sure. I mean, it's hitting a sort of dead wood on g6, and it's his bad bishop with these pawns, semi-Marazzi type of structure. So I'm not really in a hurry to take that off. I think that my bishop is a better piece. My knight, I mean. You know, if he wants to waste the tempo retreating his bishop, good for him. So we're going with the classic kind of accelerated dragon. This is the piece that's hard to use in this kind of position. How do you use this piece? You know, seriously. It doesn't do anything on this diagonal. It just looks nice, you know, and f5's out. g4 does nothing. d7, it just sits there and gets out of the way of the other pieces. That's all it can do. And that's what I feel in these kind of openings. The Rossalimo as well. Oftentimes this bishop just sits there and has very little to do. So that's the piece I'd like to trade off. If I could trade off one of my minor pieces, love to trade this guy. This guy for this guy. Let's trade those two bishops. Ooh, there goes the dark squares. And now it really turns into a Marazzi. Now this guy has a little more potential. Maybe I could play. It's kind of anti-positional, but sometimes you could do f5. It would give white a lot of chances down the e file, though. We've got knights. We've got dark square play and knight e6, perhaps queen b6 type of stuff. Let's try that. So now it feels like a normal Marazzi to me, where I'm very much at home in the Marazzi. Bishop e3, okay. Threatening knight a4. We were prepared for that. Play queen b4. This is all part of the normal standard accelerated dragon type of thing. And we're ready to play this in some moment, a4. Unfortunately, it's not working here. So queen b6 is a rep. Queen a3 is too generous, losing a queen for like not very much material after knight b1. No, I have queen b2 actually. Well, anyways, that's another repetition. Bishop c1. So we have to go to b7 or some awkward square. If you want to go back to b6 for any particular reason, b8. b8 overprotects like the dark square, so I thought maybe I'll reinforce e5 a little bit. Still can't seem to get in a4. Alright, I think knight e6 is probably an idea. Or f5? Do we dare play f5? It's risky. Very risky to play f5. Pawn takes f5, knight takes d3. Queen takes d3, bishop takes f5. Knight e4. I'm not really sure what's going on there. Not really sure, guys. f5, take, knight e4, and I don't have d5 because he has queen takes d5 check. So king h8 is probably a useful move. Pairing f5. Telegraphing my intentions. Always good. Knight e6 is fine. Probably time for 2 more games after this, guys. Knight e6 is a little passive, though. Certainly playable. Wish I had a better square for my queen. Where would I go? Maybe h5. h5 is very weakening. Knight e6. All right, I'm at a loss for a plan here. I don't know what to do. Maybe we'll just focus on the d4 square. I should have put my queen on b7 maybe. Wasn't a big improvement though. c5. Let's go for c5. The d4 square. It stops any nonsense with c5 by him. It obviously gives up d5. That's fine. We can defend that. That's no problem. And this is a temporary resident. But f5 is possible. As I said, guys, you get it in and then what? You know, it's not about e7 dropping. Just I don't know what my follow-up is. Once I do that variation with f5 and he plays knight e4, he just sits there with a knight on e4. I don't really know what I'm doing next in that line. But this looks like a standard spot now. We kick him out and we own d4. So this is looking good. It's happening a lot sometimes in like g3 Scheveningens. Give it up for the d4 bishop. Pawn or bishop? Bishop. Bishop takes. I want to keep a grip on b4. We've got a4 break, kicking him out with e6. Now the two bishops will slowly start to be a factor, I think. And a4 is a huge threat. I mean, strategically. This should... Giving me access to the A file is really problematic for white. And the worst piece on the board is the bishop on d3. Oh, he's stopping it again. Stopping a4 again. So we need to get in a4 one way or another. Knight c3, very heads up move. I could play a4 here as a pawn sacrifice just to... I could also take on c3. I don't like it. I'm not going to do that. a4 as a pawn sacrifice to break up his structure. Interesting, but not real convinced. This is going to be a real trench warfare type of game. A waiting move. Trust in My Suicide has, wow, I have 10 challenges, guys. I have time for 2 more games. That's like a record, 10 challenges. I have only time for 2 more games, guys. That's it. So I'm not taking that with my white squared bishop. I could, and I wouldn't be worse. But my plan was to do this. So we've got the mega pawn. Megalodon. If you guys are fans of the game Amazing Frog, you might know about the Megalodon. This is a Megalodon here on d4. If he takes it, we have a protected passed pawn. And it's hard to live with it. I mean, it's very... Very troubling piece. A3, sir. So he's trying to get in B4 himself. Alright. It's fine by me. It's coming down to 1 minute each with the 5-second increment. Alright. I want to shore up the dark squares. But trust in my suicide. Clearly a player who's comfortable on the defense. This is a tough call now. But I think I'm going to go with this one. Keep the queen side majority active. Black's a tiny bit better, but I'm not winning by any stretch of the imagination. I like black better. And I played f3. We've got to play on both sides here, I think. That's going to be the only way to win. Play on both sides, although I don't want to give that up yet. What am I going to do? Make a waiting move of some kind? Alright. Gotta stay active on both sides. Maybe f5 at some point later. Tense position. Black is a tiny bit better. Alright. Opened up the A file now. And I've got to be careful. Queen A7 or something like that. A very, very tough position. I could have taken on B4, but I think then I'm never winning. This was kind of risky. Wow, he's taking with a pawn. Okay. Tough one, huh? Alright. Well, I mean, that should be a kind of no-brainer. But he has this move. I don't think it's dangerous, is it? F6. Theoretically, you have the better structure. Now this move. What's that about? I don't even know. What is going on here? I love the 1500. We know that it's just a provisional rating, but still. It's kind of funny. Gotta be careful. Five-second increments. Sack and exchange. Not really the plan. I was scared he had like rook b7 there or something like that. Try to turn the corner and hit this pawn on e4. Is some kind of pawn sack? It's okay, man. He's got a strong attack with f5 coming up. Oh, it's okay. No, I can't, dude. I have to blockade here? Oh my god. Pawn takes e5, f5 he had. Trust in my suicide loses on time again. Isn't that what happened last time? Yeah, it was also a very tense game yesterday. Alright, dude. He lost on time. You guys look at that last trick, by the way. I mean, if I take on e5, he has f5. Triple attacking g6. I can't play e4. It's like a sealer sweeper, and I think I'm just lost. Or very close to lost. Maybe not. But it looked really nasty. I guess I could take and play queen d6 there. But still, very complicated. Sheppy and Ghost Mine would be the last two games. When does the stream start in North America? Is it every night? It didn't start in North America. You mean when? What time is it in North America when I start? You know, it would start 3 a.m. for those on... No, wait. 4 a.m. for those on the East Coast. But I'm going to be moving to the U.S. in 2 weeks, and from July 1st, we're going to be doing a USA evening time stream. Tough game, excuse me. Sheppy, I don't remember. Did we play yesterday? I don't remember that game. That's not, definitely not. Maybe we played yesterday. Trying to focus on the King's Indian a little bit. G3. Alright. I think I played this the other day. Knight A6. Kind of Shirov system, if you want to call it a system. I think it's just an attempt to get something new. But Sheppy, I don't think it was against you because you haven't been here for a while. H3 makes a lot of sense. Stop bishop G4. In the event of bishop f5, maybe he could play G4 there as well. Kind of my main plan to play like bishop G4, but there are other ideas here. Maybe rook B8 and B5 actually isn't that ridiculous. E5. E5 not possible here. Knight C7. Bishop, what am I gonna do? Queen B6, Queen A5. None of those moves make sense now. I mean, rook B8 makes some sense to play for B5. White's just going to play classically with E4, it would seem. The H3 might be White's best move. We could play bishop E6 type of ideas. It just allows D5. I don't think that really seems justified. So it's tough for me. Should probably research this a little bit more before I play it again. After H3, it's hard to find a good move. Knight C7. Knight C7, E4. It just looks good for White. Bishop F5. Bishop F5, G4. Bishop E4, G5. It's also looking bad for black. Rook b8. It just looks artificial. Knight c7. I guess we can do knight c7 and just sort of hang out. Decide how to play here based on what white does. Okay, he did e4. So we can't trade off a piece like we do with bishop g4. This would be a huge gain for me if I could get that in somehow. So now knight d7. Black is passive, but fairly solid. Don't like my position, but it's still very easy for white to overextend himself in this kind of game. So I don't know what else to do. We have maybe c5, b5 type of ideas. I could turn it into rook b8. Turn it into a kind of Benoni at some point. That's the only, maybe a6 and b5, but this is the only type of plan on the queen side. You like provoking d5. Well, white's never going to play d5. The Eugene Perelstein system. Shirov, I guess, is the only strong player to ever play this for black. Now, bishop g5 is like kind of provocative. I mean, h6 would probably weaken my king side, but you have to watch out that I don't play knight e6. Knight e6, bishop back to e3, then c5. So it doesn't really help me. Bishop g5, queen d2. h6 is not a move I want to play. My queen is hemmed in. Maybe we could play knight e6 and queen somewhere. Queen a5. It looks really, really fishy for black. So, I mean, rook e8 is a move we can think about at some point. I don't think it's really necessary. b5. b5 at some point, maybe c5, b5, rook b8, the idea of b5. White's not really threatening anything, so let's see what he does. White had to make a Peertz defense. Are you ever considering playing rated games during stream? Danielos, I do play rated games during stream. It's completely up to you guys. But I'm not going to play anybody who's provisionally rated games. And most of the players seem to prefer casual games. There is no rule in place. And I occasionally, if you watch the stream every day, you'll see that I occasionally do play rated games. It's not my choice to play rated or unrated. So queen d2, bishop h6. Now, do I want to spend time to play rook e8 or not? That's the question. b5 looks like, I've got some kind of counterplay now. It's not much, but it might keep white busy. Bishop a6 at some point. Kind of getting that piece in the game. This is pretty extreme hyper modern chess for black, but he's played g3, bishop g2, e4. It's not clear what this really does, in this kind of structure where his knight remains on f3. As you can see, like, I've evacuated the long diagonal with rook b8. So c6 is a target. I guess. It's hard for him to attack. And optically, it looks really overwhelming for white here, but in reality, it's not that easy to do anything. Tournament games, such as Blitz Classic. What? You were thinking more like rated tournament games? This is Blitz Classical. But you mean like streaming during a Lee Chess tournament? So I just usually have to do the stream at a set time every day. I know that a lot of streamers just randomly pick when they're going to stream, but prefer the comfort of having a regular schedule. Alright, so I don't know. Pawn takes gives him like clear central pawn superiority, and my knight is pretty bad on c7. So I thought in this situation I'm going to go for knight takes b5. Black is pretty compact. White is obviously better, but it's not easy to make progress. And I don't have too many weaknesses. But I would pick white here, obviously, any day. He's got a space advantage, and I don't really have any active counterplay at all. So a tiny bit of counterplay along the b file should be easy for white to neutralize. Are there a lot of tournaments with increment? I don't know. I don't think I've ever played a tournament here on Lee Chess. I've had this discussion before, and I don't really see a future for tournaments online. I think it's just going to get worse. So when I hear the words tournament and online mixed together in a chess perspective, it doesn't really stimulate the neurons in a positive way. Rook on a to c1. Yeah, that's got to be the best move. I mean, it makes complete sense to take back maybe with a rook on c3. I could play bishop a6. Can I play takes in c5 at some point? Interesting. Wow. Takes and c5. Yeah, yes. I see now the Perelstein concept. I haven't seen Eugene in years, but I had some games. I could see him playing like this. So he takes back with the pawn finally, which sort of casts doubt on. He casts some doubt on the whole concept of rook c1, although he does get it off the long diagonal. Looks like we've got our counterplay now. c4 square is weak. We've got the b file, and we're in business. The only thing is this knight on d7 is something of a useful defender. Wonder. Yeah, but he doesn't have a good move here, does he? e5 or something? Is he going to do e5 at some point? Can I play f6? f6 and e5 weakens my structure. All right, I'm not going to weaken my pawn structure here. We have this move, knight c4. A lot of nasty threats. It's getting kind of sharp. I'm sorry, my queen is tied down to the e7 pawn. I'm down to a minute and a half now. Be glad he's wearing a shirt. How many tattoos do I have? Yeah. Be glad I'm wearing my pants. Not too many. Bishop f1. Wow, there goes the white square bishop. Bishop c4. Knight c4. Do I just want to trade this guy? Just trade him? And then play knight c4. Running out of time. Knight c4. I don't know what to do. Alright, we're just going to take. Yeah, this has got to be best. Just take. Maybe queen d7 or queen c8 at some point is interesting. Knight c4, unfortunately, probably helps him. Queen c8 drops a pawn. And play this. This has worked out really well. This is good, you know, good, like solid evidence that this system is playable for black. Creeping death variation. Snap that guy. I'm not sure that Sheppy saw that. I think he would have been that generous. Though knight d5, and I have moves here. Queen f5. I gotta move fast. Not sure that's a good idea, queen f5. Alright, I just gotta move. 22 seconds. He's 2 minutes ahead of me. Well, his position's falling apart. He doesn't care. The important thing is that he moves fast. No, actually, Sheppy usually would get in time pressure with me. Guys, this is gonna be the last game today. I thought I would have time for Ghost Mine, but it's 12:40, so I've got to pack it in. I didn't realize it was gonna go this long. I'm wearing pants, yeah. Well, the internet, you never know. That's the beauty of this webcam. Yeah, let's not go there. Full body tattoos. I'm a little low on time. Wait a minute now, sir. I've got knight d5 here. He's not threatening my d6 pawn. Oh man, no time. All right, let's just play it safe as we can play it. 3-second increment. Man, that's the same problem I had in that other game. This damn 3-second increment, guys. Doesn't get any more solid than this. Can't hurt me. Thank God for increment. Oh, my mouse froze. You should move now instantly while my mouse... I have to, like, shake my mouse. 5 or something. Panicking. Kind of freaked out with f5. It's not a bad move, though. Sheppy, very controlled. He's certainly not panicking either. I have to ask you to leave my pieces alone. I have to ask you to leave my pieces alone, sir. Do not bother my figuras. Well, now you grab the file. That's all right. We should have this under control. He's got a pretty bad night, actually, under the circumstances. Queen ending. What? Man, Sheppy is an incremental god. It's like playing our old friend. What's his name? Sheppy used to be a lot slower, if I recall correctly. I thought you were a lot slower back in the old days. Damn, dude. Why would I take a draw? Maybe it's a draw. Sheppy, you got a lot faster from the last time I played you. Oh, that way. Where's my king? Okay, here. All right. Does look hard to make progress here. Defended like a genius. I don't know, man. You didn't deserve to draw that, but it's all right. All right, guys. We'll see. Jesus Christ. We'll see you guys later, and don't forget to check out my YouTube videos on video chess training. If you have any questions about any chess related projects or want to take lessons, give me an email at videochesstrainer@gmail.com. Hard to remember my email, but good game, Sheppy. But I feel very disappointed with myself not to win that one. At the end, I was to clear pawn up and let you hold on. But all right, guys. Sorry I couldn't play more games. Already well over time. So I'll see you tomorrow at 10 a.m. CET. Take care. Bye bye.